Inspector Rennie.
Hello, Sufre. I am Inspector Rennie. On Police Forum, we will explore important topics on community policing and safety. I'm here to answer your questions and work with you to make our community a safer place.
Every Friday at 10 a.m., tune in to 88.5 Super FM for an informative and educational hour with Inspector Rennie.
Your concerns matter. Let's discuss how we can collaboratively enhance the safety and well-being of our town.
Police Forum with Inspector Rennie, bringing you the information and answers you need. That's every Friday at 10 a.m. on 88.5 Super FM. 88.5 Super FM, your voice, your lights.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Police Forum. I'd like to apologize for the absence of Inspector Rennie this morning. I'm filling in for him. I am Special Constable 389 Lyndon Stephen, attached to the Soufrière Police Station. And I'd like to welcome our guest this morning, WPC Cheryl Leon, the Vulnerable Persons Team. Good morning, Ms. Leon.
Good morning, Officer Stephen.
Welcome.
Good morning, Senator Lucia.
All right. That's more like it. I'd like to welcome you to the show this morning. We have a very important show this morning. We're speaking about young persons and youth on the whole, and your department's role when it comes to young persons and child abuse and stuff of that sort. So we'd like to welcome you in, and your expertise in that department or in that particular stream would be something that we would go a long way. So we'd like to welcome you on the show this morning and hope that our conversation this morning is one where the public and even myself or anybody else on here can benefit from it. So welcome this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes. So before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ms. Leo?
Oh, yes. I am Women Police Constable 814 Leon. I'm attached to the Vulnerable Persons Team in Castries. That's located on Bridge Street, Castries. I've been a member of this department for approximately 8 years. Just to give a little insight of the Vulnerable Persons Team, I could start off by saying that the Vulnerable Persons Team was established in 2007 with the specific purpose of investigating matters as it pertains to child abuse, domestic violence, matters dealing with the vulnerable. So that will include the groups such as physically challenged persons, mentally challenged persons, intellectually challenged persons, and any persons with any sort of disabilities. One of our main functions as well is to investigate matters of sexual offenses, which is very, very prevalent in our society today.
Yes. Okay. And on the issue of child abuse, could you elaborate a little bit further for us? What would, in your investigations, what would constitute as a child before we go into the child abuse? What would constitute as somebody being a child?
Okay, first of all, let me just give a definition of what child abuse is. Mm-hmm. It is a mistreatment by an adult towards a child that affects the child's well-being or endangers or harms the child's well-being, physical development, emotional development. That's what's really it's about.
But it has to be an adult to a child and not like an older, like a 16, 17-year-old.
Right. Or anybody who is older than a child. Usually adults, but as well as persons who are older than that particular child.
Okay, fair enough. We see a lot of instances where these things have been reported, and from a police standpoint, I know that the investigations are ongoing and continuing, but persons say, so what would you say to persons who say,
yes, we hear that all the time. The onus is on us as police officers, and even within the community, we will want persons to know that matters affecting children We need to protect their identity at all times. So we cannot, if something is reported, we're not going to go around and advertise that, hey, this 6-year-old, this 5-year-old, or whatever, whether it's physically, sexually, assaulted. We don't want to expose them to any further trauma. We need to protect them and protect their identity as well as protect their family as well.
Yes.
So these matters are very sensitive, and confidentiality is paramount when dealing with those matters.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I agree fully. I agree that the young person has gone through enough and they should not be dragged, so to speak, into the limelight so that everybody can take pics and so on and so forth. So with reference to of late, we've seen a lot of young persons. We hear them missing. We hear that person, and then when they found, we heard nothing. We had no feedback. Is there anything in place so that we can give? Because people don't want to hear the person is found. They want to hear a little bit more as to is there anything in the pipelines or in place for that, or it's just that the person is found and that's it?
Okay, when someone goes missing, parents, of course, will report the matter to any police station within their jurisdiction. So, for example, you live in Vieux Fort, there's a Vieux Fort police station. You report this matter to the Vieux Fort police station. And of course, there's a CID department there as well. When this person is found, hopefully, alive and well, this person has to be interviewed by a police officer, because we need to find out, where this person was, why this person left, where this child, rather, why they left, where were they, how long, with whom, they were, do some investigations. Investigations has to be carried out. And many times you find that thereafter, upon their return, we will find out during an interview that, they may have been some sexual activity that took place as it pertains to this child. And this is when the vulnerable persons team, whether north or south, get involved.
Yes.
But there must be follow-up, of course, as it pertains to any, any social intervention that may be needed for this child, because there must be a reason why, children run away. So that there must be, referral has to be made to our Department of Human Services. So there are follow-ups, there are other processes and procedures that has to take place as it pertains to this child.
Yes. Something that I realized, and I find it might be very difficult to deal with, persons with special needs. Some of them have speech impediments and they are assaulted. But you get where they are not schooled properly, so there's no sign where they are proper. They can make proper signs so that somebody else can interpret. How do you all go ahead and deal with that? Because as a police officer, those people might come to the station and make a report, and we cannot understand them, and their family members cannot really interpret what they're saying. So how do you go forward?
There are special ed teachers to assist us in an investigation. They must be present when we are interviewing children. So reports can be made by a parent, yes. But during, an initial interview, we seek the assistance of a special ed person. Maybe there's a person who is in sign language, all of that, and who understands this person, the psyche, etc., the intellectual capacity, etc. So we do seek the intervention.
Yes. And so, coupled with that, there are a number of parents we know of who, having their children having made reports, decide to go back door and settle for, which I think is a very disgusting path that they want to go down on, because your child, first of all, has been assaulted by an adult, somebody who should have known better. And then you sit down and put a cost to your child's trauma. What is the department's view on that?
Oh, no, this is something that we do not entertain at all. Once matters are reported to the department, they have to be investigated thoroughly, and due diligence must be done. We do not get involved, neither we encourage persons to take what we call wajima. Matters have to go through the digital process. So persons have to be interviewed, investigation has to be carried out, statement taken, etc., etc. And, when the investigator, finally has completed his or her investigation, someone has to be arrested and this matter has to be taken before the court.
That is correct. We find a lot of
it is not right. It is not correct for parents to do so. Yes.
And a lot of the time that is the route that they take. But again, when we look at society, maybe their financial situations and stuff like that, they do those things based on that. But do they as parents sit back and realize what it is doing to the child psyche, the mentality of the child. Because you telling your child that you can quantify their hurt or their pain, a certain amount of money can cover how they feel right now or what they're going through right now. So what would you say to a parent who's considering taking a wajma?
Any form of abuse, it is traumatic for any person, child or adult. And there's no, value can be placed on that kind of trauma. This is trauma for life, especially sexual assaults.
Yes.
This is something that you carry with you for life. How do you interact with persons? How do you interact with the opposite sex? There's a change of attitude and behavior and all of these things. How they're able to cope? Are they able to reason? Make proper decisions in their lives? So this is affecting these children for life. And I think parents should understand that that is definitely the wrong way to go in accepting any monetary value from anyone.
Yes,
we as parents need to put the best interest of our children first.
Yes.
Before anything else.
Yes, and that is one thing I want to drive home to parents and guardians on a whole, that if your child has gone through such a traumatic experience, rather than try to help them and try to get them a little bit of counseling or have somebody talk to them, the thought is, I'll get some money from that man and we'll sweep it under the rug. And we see it a lot of times happening, especially with family members. You have to understand as a parent that your family member has taken advantage of your child, and that's your child. And now you have to be there for your child. I remember speaking to a young lady, and she said to me that the issues that she has with her mother right now is based on that, because her mother put a cost to her pain and her trauma. Her mother just took some money and then swept her pain and her trauma under the rug, and she was acting out based on that. So it is something that goes a long way. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of young persons we see in our community. They have a lot of this trauma attached to them, and that is why we see them behaving in the manner that they're behaving. So, having said that, in your department, what are the different types of abuse that you would come across very frequently, or sometimes even very rarely, if you can speak on them? Not, yeah.
Of course, the most frequent one being sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You have physical abuse, emotional abuse, and you also have neglect. Sexual offenses, I always preach that is the most frequent occurred offense worldwide, just because it is sex. And you find that what we've noticed as well, especially perpetrators who, commit these acts against our very young, are usually a family member, or someone who's close to the family, someone who's close by in the neighborhood, and somebody who's, a family trust, and sometimes family members not believe that, an adult would do that to their child, simply because the perpetrator, is an authoritative figure close to the family, maybe contributing financially and all of that.
Yes.
So in many cases, you find that parents don't believe that the children have been sexually abused.
But also, parents must understand that for your child to come in to say that to you as a parent, that takes a lot from the child. So to believe that your child is lying because Uncle John or Uncle Bob is the one financing the family, your child is lying on Uncle John or Uncle Bob. Think of it from the child's point of view, how much it is taken from your child to go to you now and let you know that, hey, this person touched me, or this person did this to me or did that to me. Put yourself in the place of your child right now, and your children don't normally speak about those things to parents. So for your child to come out and say that to you, how can you sweep that under the rug? How can you just, no, if I I'm going to top longtemps. I mean,
that is so correct. That is so correct. And you find that the perpetrators, that is, how they go about, as we say, grooming our young children. They would, contribute certain things to the family, give the child certain things, whether it's money, snacks, etc., etc. And that's pretty much to lure the children in. And that is why the parents now have so much faith in this person that they will not believe that, this person will do something like that to their child.
Yes. A lot of the time, I believe the parents too have let their guard down. Because as an adult, I think you would see certain signs. Because as an adult woman, somebody would offer your child some money or something, and you realize, but as an adult, that's how a man would court you as an adult. So you should be vigilant enough to realize, hey, I have a daughter, or hey, I have a son, and be very mindful of who comes around your child, what persons do around your child. But parents now have that carefree attitude that Hey, jamais qu'il a pas fait ça. And that is what we need to get them to. If it's one thing we need to do is how do we get them to open their eyes and be more vigilant? Are there any tips that you might have?
Oh, all I do every time we have clients, parents come in, trust me, I do give them tips how to keep their children safe.
Mhm.
And it is sad to say that no longer we have a situation where the village is the one raising the child. We don't have to know more. You have to be mindful, you have to be vigilant, you have to do everything in your power to protect your child, to not open doors to allow persons the opportunity to physically, sexually, emotionally abuse your child. And I always say once there is opportunity, the likelihood of these things happening, trust me, it is very, very, it is very possible. So we have
And
to do everything in our power. I know that then we have so many nuclear families now or single parent families raising children, and they need to leave the child there and there to go to work, etc. Maybe after school leave the child by a neighbor, somebody. But even if leaving the child at a particular location in your neighborhood, you need to know who has access to the house where you are leaving your child.
yes.
Know everything about this person, who comes to the house, who visits the house. Because the moment that you leave your child is out of your eyesight, this child could become very, very vulnerable to any form of abuse.
Yes. I always say to parents, you must know your children's friends. You must have their phone numbers. Because when your child turns 14, 13, 14, 15, your child is in the eyes of everybody. So what would happen is your child will have some close friends that they are very close to. They spend a lot of time with, they on the phone with all the time. As a parent, you're supposed to know who your child is close to. Who are your friends? Who are the parents of those friends? Because your child sooner or later will tell you, hey, I'm going to spend 2 days with Nancy, or I'm going to spend 2 days with Tana. These things you need to know who the parents are, who comes in and out of that house. And parents are of that attitude where by your friendship going, it's okay. But do you know who the friends are? Do you know who frequents the houses of those friends? Parents need to be more vigilant and more concerned about where and how the things that the children do.
Yes, most very importantly, and also to observe the interaction of the children,
Mhm.
with other persons. Just observe watch how this child interacts with this person. Sometimes the child may have gone a particular place, and all of a sudden the child says, "Mommy, I don't want to go there anymore." And the child is behaving a particular way. You need to pay attention to that. Ask yourself questions. Why is this child, doesn't know, but the child doesn't want to go by daddy's home or auntie home or uncle home anymore. That kind of thing. So we definitely need to pay attention to that, or pay attention to our children, more frequently. Listen to them. You don't say, you're always in a hurry, or you have something to do, you're very busy. Make that time to pay attention to them and listen to them.
Yes. Um, and then we go on to something where we see growing up, that wasn't a thing for us, because growing up it wasn't the norm for us, but now physical abuse. Parents used to beat us black and blue, take pot, take pan, take stick, take everything and beat us. But now, oh, my dad is abusing me, my mom is abusing me. How do you differentiate between somebody disciplining the child and how does it become abuse? Where's the thin line?
All right. Let me just give some examples of physical abuse. So, for example, beating, slapping, burning a child with a cigarette butts, pouring hot water on them, things kicking, all these are pushing, all these are physical forms of physical abuse. And anytime you discipline a child and you do it with anger, this is where the abuse starts. You repeatedly, and you use certain things to mark this child. This is abuse.
But some parents will argue that they beat the child because the child got them angry. Sometimes you have spoken to the child on numerous occasions not to do something, and then at that point, work stress, house stress, your husband stressing you, your boyfriend stressing you, you have two women outside, and then you come home, and then the child is doing exactly what you asked them. Not like they say, they got on the last nerve, and you lash out, maybe you give the child a backhand or something, you cut under the eye. Is that still considered as abuse, or is it just a one-off incident?
It is abuse. It is abuse. And I
So
know parents. We hear that all the time. Parents say, "Some of us tell you that's my child. I could have, be there for you. They're not listening or whatever."
yes.
Again, it all boils down to how you know we want what we want our child to become, what we exposing our children to. Because the fact that you're doing abusing the child that way, or maybe trying to discipline the child that way, it's more than likely that they will be doing to others. So you need to sit down. I always say that there is no the speaking has to continue. There is no end to the speaking. But the
Mhm.
moment that you do it with anger, for rage, you just speak up something. Always remember that likely suffer. There are so many forms of discipline that you can take away something from them, put them in the quiet corner. Again, depends on the age. If they have to go somewhere, you don't allow them to go. You could have persons speak to your kids as well. We are available at the unit. We have counselors available. The child may be going through something, depends on the behavior, especially the teenagers, There are counselors available. We are here to help. We speak to the children ourselves as police officers.
Yes. And I always tell parents they need to find alternative measures or ways of disciplining their children. Because
exactly.
we got a lot of licks growing up. Did that change many of us? No. We did what we were going to do. My mother used to beat me for going to the river. I woke up in the morning, I did my chores in the house, I went to the river, came back home, got my licks, and tomorrow repeat the same process. So is it a fact that is it the licks is not going to change the child? Those things don't necessarily change the child, but what I always advise them to do is take away what the child likes. Your child likes football, restrict them from going to play football. The child has a phone, take the tablet, restrict the television time. Remove those things, and then you would see the changes because they want those things back. So they will change their behavior and their attitude towards these things. Again, vigilance in parents, because some people believe parenthood is like it's a carbon copy. My mother did that, so that's what I'm doing. But parenting evolves. Parenting has evolved and continues to evolve. And the only way you can know how to be a proper parent is to be in sync with what your child is doing, how they're doing it, who they're doing it with, and be around or inside of your child. Make your child comfortable with telling you things.
Exactly. And I always say too, even our very young who visit our department, that your parents are supposed to be your closest friends. So anything that you speak about, you should be able to speak to your parents about anything. And this is why sometimes some kids will tell you that they don't feel comfortable in speaking to their parents about anything. That is why they go out there and seek other friends, and they end up getting peer pressured to do certain things that they're not supposed to be involved in. So they look for the love out there. But they're supposed to have this connection between the parent and child to want them to, to be able to speak to them, open up to them, about anything, any subject whatsoever.
Because this is one of the things I tell my male friends. You have daughters. Show your daughter love. Let your daughter see what it is like to be loved. So that when somebody outside there can just come and tell them, hey, my girl, I love you. My daddy loved me. So what else? What new? You understand? You have to set your children on a platform that these little things don't easily sway them. And then we see them. And I tell parents that all the time. I say to them, why does your child have a cell phone? And they say to me, but I need to reach my child at any given time, which is fine. And I say to them, why don't you buy your child a Trano? And they're like, Makaiba Ishmesa? So then I say to them, your reasoning is out of sync. Because if your reason for wanting a phone is to reach the child, how now that I'm telling you, get the child a Trano, you're telling me, Makaiba Ishmesa? And then those children are in the rooms on those phones at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, doing God knows what. And then when the problem arises now, they come to the police and officer, I will tell you, officer, we need to start parenting our children in the way that is good. Not just we believe is good, but is good and is right.
And this is a situation where it's with our department, but we always speak to the parents about the phone situation with kids. Because if you have a child, there is no need for the child to have a high-end phone. Teenager or preteen, a basic phone will do. Say, for example, the child, this is school at 2:45 or 3 or whatever the case may be. I mean, it is wise that the parent knows where this child is at all times. So you connect with your child, school is over and at dismissing at 2:45 or 3 o'clock. You connect with the child and get to know where this child is. The child's supposed to be at home at 3:30, whatever. The child's supposed to be at this one. Find themselves at home at a particular time, if they don't have any extracurricular activities, and whether it's football, any sports or whatever. And you find that parents are telling us, sometimes we need to go into the child's phone and the child has a pin or a lock on the phone. And I'm asking, but who bought the phone? I mean, the parent is the one who bought the phone, and we just cannot enter the phone because the child has a lock on the phone. And kids and we're getting to know that kids have these phones at all hours of the morning. The parents are sleeping, and a lot of things are happening with that phone. They
Yes.
are on Instagram, Facebook, and a lot of things are happening. We are exposing our children to so much danger when we are not supervising them properly.
Yes. So what does in your department, what is it like in terms of assault, and because there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of sharing of images of young children who not supposed to be on the internet at all, but the pictures are out there. What is your standpoint on that? How does your department deal with that?
Yes, matters like that we charge upon investigation.
Hmm.
Someone can be charged on a Computer Misuse Act.
Yes.
This is where, yes, you can be charged. There's a lot of this going around, but there are the times takes lot of investigation in these matters. You need to know, first of all, where this first image came from and all of that. So it's a lot of
Yes.
matters where we seek the intervention of our cyber lab.
Yes.
So these matters are investigated as well.
Mhm.
And you
So,
find some person,
mhm.
some other persons would have the young persons send them new images of themselves, and say that or if once they do it, they say that if you don't, I will spread it or I will send out there and all that kind of thing. So especially if they have it already, they will keep on saying it will pretty much threaten to spread those images or forward them to their friends, etc. Which is so wrong. And again, that is where supervision comes in as it pertains to the phone and other gadgets, that our kids have and purchase for our kids. We are exposing them to so much. And I'm saying there's so many programs that we can enroll our children in. I'm sure that the internet is there for, any knowledge that you could speak about, anything that you want to know. That's what it's there for. However, it's been misused, and that is why parents have to be vigilant and observing or supervising the children as to what they do on the internet. What they do. That is so important. And the password. Children can have a password on the gadget.
Mhm.
You're one of the ones who bought it themselves. The parent is in charge of this particular device, and as
Yes.
such, they're supposed to be supervising the device.
Yes. And I have no issues with the young persons having passwords on their phones or their devices, but the parents should know what these passwords are. The parents should anytime pick up those phones, put in the password, and go through those phones at any time that they feel like it. But the problem that I have is, like you said, these young persons have phones that the parents bought, and then the parents have no access to the phones. They cannot take the phone, they cannot go through the phone, they don't have the password to the phone. And these are setting your child up for a lot of problems and even making it difficult for us, because to go forward with an investigation, we need there to be cooperation. And if there's no cooperation,
Definitely.
the investigation dies in the water. We need cooperation. So even though you believe your child
Definitely.
is going through such and such, and your child is not cooperative, what happens to the investigation?
There is not much you can do, honestly.
Yeah.
If in order for an investigation to be successful, there must be full cooperation from a child or a parent. What you're going to take to the court, that's what you need is your evidence, and we need the
Yes.
full cooperation of the child.
Yes. And
I
and
always said, but we don't go to court with our two hands swinging. We go there with evidence.
that is it. And that is what I say to people all the time. They say, a report est fait, police là va faire rien. But at the end of the day, when the police officer is investigating their particular matter, no information is given. Nobody says anything. So how does the police proceed with a matter with no evidence to prove to the court? What do we bring to the courts?
Yes, very importantly.
Yes. And okay. So in terms of school-based assaults, how frequent do you find these things happening, especially at the school level?
I believe that it has happened frequently, but the community relations branch normally deals with that.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're calling the parents. Sometimes we get involved as well. If a parents want to pursue a matter, if it involves, this is not actually in a family setting. So if it involves a child and another child, any jurisdiction can investigate that matter.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
necessarily has to be VPT.
Hmm.
You understand? It is, or sometimes a child walking down the road and an adult just punched a child, any adult at random punched a child. So this matter could be investigated as per jurisdiction. But we do assist, we do provide guidance where necessary. But we normally deal with matters of physical abuse as within the home circle, parents, somebody puts the family guardian, etc., etc. This is what we mostly deal with.
Yes. There are times as the community relations officer, I have gone to the schools and I have dealt with situations of that sort. I have what normally obtains is myself, the principal, and the parents of the students, and the students would come together, and we would have what we call an intervention. And if the
Sure.
parent wants to take the matter further, then we refer it to VPT. If the parent and everybody is okay with the situation as it is, they have explained everything, the matter is already dealt with, then there's no need for it to go as far as to VPT and to the courts. What we find sometimes is that after the matter is dealt with, there's this little stigma attached to the young person, and this is one of the things that we want to take away from these situations. Is that anytime that you find a matter of that sort, especially sexual in nature, the child now is put under a microscope, and we find, especially with the sharing of the images, the young persons do these things a lot. And that is why I tell the parents you have to be very careful with the cell phones. The children are in these rooms doing whatever they feel like with a cell phone. The parents have no idea. Like you said, the parents are sometimes even asleep while those children are up on cell phones. And then they share the images, and then they get blackmailed using those same images, say that if you don't send more, I'm going to leak the images. And then they end up sending more, and then the person who blackmailed them now has access to a lot more material than they had previously. So it is a very ticklish situation. We're trying our best to educate them, reference to the use of cell phones and social media, but it's an uphill climb. It's an uphill climb. It cannot be done by the police alone. Home has to have their responsibilities and take up their access and go to battle as well. Because the young persons, we as police officers cannot be telling them all the time what to do. And when they go home, everything that we worked with them is just been washed away at home. So it has to be, like you said, the community has to raise the child, the village has to raise the child. And that's not happening anymore. There are a lot of times we get reports where young persons are living at their boyfriend's home while they're at school, which I find is crazy, but it happens. It happens.
It does. We do get those reports as well. It does.
Yes.
And sadly, we are cutting it short. Before I go to this, you find that as it pertains to the sharing of images, you find that only when the images comes out, you be getting to know, or it's been reported that there was sexual activity, that kind of thing, and or when it comes out, that's when the report is being made. But there are other things that are happening behind closed doors that parents are not aware. And when the images are out now, that is when parents become aware, and then the report is made to us.
Yes.
This is what's happening quite often.
Yes. I find that usually the images are the tip of the iceberg. By the time you get to the image, when you sit down and you have an intervention, then you realize that there's so much more beneath the surface. It's like a treasure trove of information. Again, we cry out to the parents. Parents, please monitor those cell phones. Go through those cell phones. Have access to those cell phones. But again, what we find too is that a lot of the parents are not tech savvy. So imagine you're not tech savvy and your child has a cell phone. How do you, as a parent, deal with that? What advice would you give to a parent who is not tech savvy and has a child with cell phones? How do they deal with it?
Once they come to us to make that report, the phone, once the report is made, the phone most likely forms part of our exhibit for the purpose of extracting information. So our IT department will get to what they have to do in terms of extracting any information from that phone.
Yes.
We are not tech savvy as well. There's something that we can do, basic things that we can do.
Yes.
However, the more technical stuff is being done by our IT department.
IT department, yes. You said that you deal with vulnerable persons as far as the elderly. Is there a lot of reporting? Is this a major thing where our elderly get abused? Our less fortunate among us in that age bracket get abused? Is that a frequent thing?
Oh yes. I wouldn't say I can't say if the occurrences are as frequent, but we do get those reports. However, I do believe that, these occurrences are not being reported as much as they should. We have had quite a few of these reports as it pertains to sexual assault on our elderly, physical abuse on our elderly.
So is there
Not as frequent as our children.
question? Is there any I would say if a parent is found to be abusing their child physically, how do you go about finding alternative housing for that child while the investigation continues?
Yes, this is initially what we do is the intervention of Division of Human Services,
Mm-hmm.
who will make a case for that child and have the child removed from this house to allow investigations to continue.
Yes.
That must be done first and foremost.
Is that something you find that is relatively an easy thing, or is it still something that it's an uphill battle when it comes to that?
I wouldn't say the times when we have difficulties, because we do work hand in hand on them in terms of trying to identify someone suitable for the child. Because of course there must be a home assessment. Investigation has to be done in order before you place this child. You need to know that this child is in a place of safety. Their well-being, emotional well-being, and otherwise, is taken care of. Safety, etc. So, but normally, usually, it does happen. We remove this child. The police will assist, the department. It could be not VPT always, but there are times when, there are other jurisdictions who got involved. Sometimes that happens in Dennery. There's an incident in Dennery. Dennery police will assist. It happens in Freeford. Freeford police will assist. Division of Human Services in removing this child, from the home. And then investigations has to continue, and we do what we have to do.
Yes. For the purpose of the listening public, what would you say are any challenges that you'll face in terms of investigations? For example, a husband and a wife. Is there any place where, I know that they had this home for battered women? Is that still open? Is there anything of that sort for battered women, or maybe even for battered men?
I wish there was one for battered men, but there is a women's shelter. We have some difficulties in reaching them now. There may be an issue. I'm not sure whether, as it pertains to the phone, or the connection, reconnecting with them, there is an issue. I cannot really identify what the issue is, but it's difficult to get them right now. However, we do, once we get through to them, as a matter of fact, when we call the shelter normally doesn't, we call them, but they would want to speak to the person, the party, the affected person, or the victim one-on-one. So we have to give them that person's number, and they will call this person so they can speak to this person, get to know exactly what the situation is, and how best that they could assist. So this is what has to happen. But currently there is an issue. I'm not too certain what the issue is in terms of reconnecting to them.
Okay. And I know that we have two juvenile detention facilities on island. Does VPT have a direct connection with them? Are there normally reports coming from these juvenile detention facilities? What is the rapport with VPT and these facilities?
Okay. Regarding the juvenile centers, normally the juveniles are there most times for care and protection. For example, VPT and the home. There are certain times where we get reports coming from them, but we work closely in connection with the social workers who are attached to these, centers. But we do get a few reports from them. Now, there are times where we are investigating matters, and those children have to be housed in any of these places for care and protection while the investigations are ongoing.
So, okay, somebody comes to the station, makes a report that so-and-so, the daughter came to them and said to them that so-and-so did whatever to them. The station takes a report and passes the matter on to VPT. How does VPT now go forward with that report that was made? What are the steps? What are the processes that you go through, if you can?
Sure. First of all, once we get this report, it's been referred to us by any other station. We get in contact with the parent of this child. we make an appointment. Sometimes, depending on the situation, we have a little conversation over the phone because we need to ascertain, how recent an incident occurred. That is very important. So we do make an appointment with them and have them to come to our department, where in the presence of the parents, we interview this child. And based on the information given, we'll know what steps to take as it pertains to medical examinations, etc., etc. That really depends on the time frame. And the matters will be subsequently assigned to an investigator for investigations. Thereafter, the investigator will contact the parent of this child and schedule an appointment for the purpose of statement taking. Statement taking forms the basis of an investigation. It's really what surrounds this child. So based on what the child says to you, you know how far investigation goes.
Yes.
You know how wide you could open the circle.
Yes.
Right? And upon gathering all statements, other evidence, etc., we will determine whether there's sufficient evidence to prefer charge against someone.
We normally hear the populace say, that person did that to that man raped that child and there's nothing being done because VBT. And that's one thing I admire about VBT is that they take their time and they investigate and then they arrest rather than arresting and then investigating. So can you allay the fears of the public? Let them know that you're doing the work, you're investigating, you're taking some time, but the matter is still under investigation.
Yes, and of course, during an investigation, it's wise for us as investigators to do follow-ups and our clients know what is happening, just keep in touch with them and lay their fears as pertains to the investigation that we have not forgotten and we are continuing. During an investigation, you may get hiccups along the way. There are hurdles that we have to cross. And sometimes persons are not cooperating, sometimes an eyewitness is, there's certain things that we faced during an investigation. But especially if matters of a sexual offense, it is so ticklish. Remember, especially those offenses of a sexual nature, most times, I would say all of the times, person don't see, no one witness anything.
Yes.
It is up to us now to gather all that evidence as much as possible and do our work as thoroughly and as diligently as possible. Unlike physical assault, most likely a neighbor might see a mother slap a child or something. There's most times somebody who saw something. Yeah, but when it comes to sexual offenses, it's a totally different kettle of fish. Yes. It is definitely a matter that you have to thoroughly take your time, be diligent, and cross all your T's and dot all your I's, before you take this matter to court. This is so important.
But even when those matters are in court, we see persons who had a matter when they were 12 and they're 23 and the matter is still going on. And do you find that when they get older, when they have their lives, do they just say, I don't want to deal with that anymore?
Yes, it is sad, but in many cases we are faced with that as well. They will come to us and say, I don't longer want to pursue this matter, and this is where the officer of the DPP steps in and will guide this person. So we refer them to the DPP's office. They may have the reasons. The DPP to say, will be able to make a decision as to whether this matter goes forward or not. But we on our own will not agree to them saying, we cannot do that. That's okay. You could drop it on whatever. No, this is not for us to do, us to decide. Once the matter has reached within the courts, then let the process go through.
Yes.
It is not up to us to encourage someone, or we should not, as a matter of fact, encourage someone to no longer be interested in a matter.
But in all fairness, imagine somebody having a matter when they're 13. And at 23, maybe they have children of their own, they have a family, they have a life, who had no idea that they are dealing with that matter. That person still has to leave their home, tell the current partner that, they're going through this and they have to go to court. So the length of time that they spend during this matter is sometimes affects how much they want to pursue it. Because imagine something happens to you 10 years ago and 10 years later, you're still dealing with that matter. I mean, to me, it's a bit excessive to be spending so long waiting for a verdict.
And what I can say is that you find a lot of the victims, being that they've gone through such trauma, and they telling us, the police officer, what happened, that alone is difficult. So even when you go to the medical examination, you have to explain to the doctor what happened. Just tell us what happened, take a statement. And then after so many years, they find it difficult to relieve all of that trauma again. So I mean, hence many of the, this is the reason why I suspect persons no longer want to pursue matter, because this, the fact that they have to relieve the incident is very traumatic for them. They don't want to go for this. They try to forget the incident.
Is there
And
any
that is
way,
the
do we have anything in place to expedite said matters, or it's just, I don't know?
we've been clamoring actually for a court to deal with only sexual matters, but this is not the case. There is no such court to deal with only matters of a sexual nature. We have other offenses in court as well: robbery, burglary, theft, etc. So this is not this is up to the system pretty much to say, hey, there is a need for a court to deal with sexual offenses, because, like I said, and I always speak to persons, that sexual offenses is the most occurred offense worldwide.
Yes, yes.
Worldwide,
And it's
so
and
difficult to
very,
trace.
it's very difficult to prove, and so that's why I say hats off to you guys, because you guys have a lot. Because most times, like you say, it's just
Exactly.
two persons involved in a situation, and so you now have to investigate to try and
Mhm.
get a picture so that you can bring before the courts to paint the picture so the court can understand
Definitely,
what.
definitely,
So
definitely.
so
And as much as it is difficult for the victim, but we and it is important as well. There are sometimes where you find victims, even on an initial report, they find it so difficult to speak about what happened. So we have to give them a little time, be considerate, to give them a little time. And in during that time, we seek counseling for them. And hopefully, at the end of this counseling, they're better positioned to really open up and speak to us.
yes. Um, how often do you find parents coming in with the young persons to make reports, and then the young persons themselves not willing to give any evidence to support the reports that the parents are making?
A bit too often, I should say. We do
Hmm.
have a lot of matters like that, especially with teenagers.
Hmm.
Um, Teenagers a lot of them tend not to be cooperative, and you really can't force them. you
Yes.
know and there are reasons for that. Of course, maybe they're in a relationship with someone, they're getting some sort of financial gain from this person, and they don't want to speak, and again, we refer them to human services for certain intervention, whether it is counseling, behavioral therapy, because some of them display certain behaviors that they really need that help. And we always say that at any time when they're ready, they can come back to speak to us. We have no side of limitation as it pertains to sexual offenses. So if you come back sometime in the future and give us that statement.
Yes. And I'm happy you touched that point, that there is no statute of limitations when it comes to sexual offenses. So you can come with a matter that happened to you 10 years ago, and you can bring it to VPT, and then VPT will investigate. Although it might be a bit difficult gathering the evidence because of the amount of time that has elapsed, but it's still within the time frame of you can still investigate. Yes.
There have been successes, I could tell you. There have been where matters, the incident happened many, many years ago, and they have been successful, as these matters have been successfully prosecuted in the high court. So there is it's a matter of you doing your due diligence as it pertains to an investigation. I'm really sure that the time has that you really can't get any DNA evidence, but there are other circumstances that will assist you during an investigation.
Um, what would you say is the most common, I don't want to say stumbling block, but maybe hindrance in when it comes to your investigations? What would you say is you come across most of the times?
Okay, there are times where, it matters where the kids cannot speak on their own. So say a baby, a 3-year-old, a 3-year-old who cannot give a statement. This is a big hindrance. Unless you find, even if you get, during a medical examination, there is evidence that, there was some form of tampering, etc. But you have nobody to say, this is what happened and I saw this. So I've had matters like that personally, so I could tell you. So, it is, you kind of put, okay, the child says, sometimes the little children might say, um, I'm using that word, let's say, Jack punched me. and kind of give you a descriptive, a narrative picture of exactly what happened, you cannot put the child understand.
Yes, yes.
You understand? So you see the situation. Unless someone who physically witness the incident, then you use this person as your witness to say, on such and such a date, whatever, I saw so and so did what, whatever to whoever. So, and again, you have the teenagers who, many of them, just are not being cooperative for various reasons, of course. There are sometimes when the time matters reaches us, sometimes the main witness is out of state. Sometimes supposed to say they don't want to get involved. Sometimes, if, say, for example, you have witnesses who are minors, you have to get the parents' permission. Now, especially when it comes to sexual offenses, persons are caught, persons don't want the children to be involved. So a lot of these things, kind of hinders an investigation.
So, what would be your advice, so to speak, to parents who want to keep their kids away from testifying? Because, again, like I said, there's stigma attached, and everybody wants to protect their child, but your child has gone through
That's
a traumatic experience. So, what is your advice to these parents who, understandably, want to keep their kids away from the limelight, to just kill that and finish with that day? What is your advice to them?
Are you speaking about a witness in a matter of victim?
Let's go with a victim. Could be a victim. Let's do
A
a victim.
victim? Like what I say to parents, sometimes I as much as we want to protect our kids, we always believe that anything that I preach to them about, whatever that has happened to your children, is an injustice, and you need to seek justice for your child.
Yes.
Now, when somebally gets away with sexually assaulting your child, physically or otherwise, this opens this, another child to the same sort of treatment. So a person is supposed to be held accountable. I strongly believe so. It doesn't matter who this person is. What position they hold in society. And I always believe that children should be safe and happy at all times. No child is supposed to be going through this sort of trauma. No child.
Yes. You see, a lot of the times, like the name of your department suggests, is the vulnerable ones that are taken advantage of, because they know, mama ipan large, or family ipan large, or your pastor afford. So they use that to prey on those lesser fortunate ones among us, because they know if they do those things, the person would bally. So our cry is to change the narrative. Let them know that we might do by Ishmael. I'm not going to take this nonsense on. I'm not going to accept this. I'm not going to take it on. This is what we want to push out there, that parents need to take the responsibility and say, no, I'm going to stand up for my child, and I'm going to go all the way for my child.
That is correct. And that is what should be happening. So we do find for a few parents who are, but some parents show no indifference. They will say some parents would actually say, pretty much blame the children who may have gone to a particular location, who may have exposed themselves. Remember, children are children.
Yes.
And the fact that an adult takes advantage of a child, this is a no. Yes. A child is a child. An adult is an adult. And especially if the children are not listening, they say, whatever, things like that. So the mothers now don't want to go through the judicial process, and this is sad, but we get this a few, so many times actually.
And when you read the section says that the young person is incapable of consenting to the activity. So no matter if they, whatever you think they did, the law says they are not capable of consenting to it. So that's basically
so once you're under 16 according to the law, you cannot consent to any form of sexual activity.
Yes. And that's what we want to bring across to the public. Somebody who is under that age is not capable of consenting to it. No matter what you see they do, no matter what they say, they are not able to consent to it. You can have them write it down, and they are not capable of consenting to it. It's just like a marriage license. Somebody under the age of 16 cannot go to the courthouse and say, I want to get married. They need a parent to sign for them and say yes, or an adult to say yes, they can get married. Other than that, it cannot happen. So somebody under the age of 16 cannot or is incapable of consenting to sex at all.
And the sad situation, just to cut it short, the sad situation is that you find We've come across quite a few parents, quite a few. You're hearing them say that the child is speaking to the child is a female daughter, the female is sexually active. And you hear they saying that they've put the child on contraceptive, the child is under 16, the child is supposed to be having sex, and you hear that a lot. And this is the sad reality that the parents are placing the children on contraceptives.
Yes, I guess the reality is if you know your child is sexually active, they do that so that at least they wouldn't get pregnant. They should not be engaged in, but at least you protect them in such a way that they at least don't get pregnant. I guess that's the mindset behind it.
Yes, yes. However, crimes have been committed against the children.
Yes, yes, and that is what we want to drive home to them, that your child is being abused, whether you think that your child is the one perpetrating or pushing it or asking for it. Your child is incapable of consenting, so somebody's committing a crime against your child. But financial circumstances, whatever other circumstances that they go through that cause them to think the way that they think, I think we need a re-education of our public, to let them understand what it is. It is something where we can speak more about it. Maybe there need to be more forum. I know some time ago you all had on the square, I believe you all had some, you were giving out flyers. Was it Saturday? I remember
Yes,
you had
yes.
this kind of sensitization. I think more of that should or could go a long way. Maybe decentralize it, come down to the south, a little something, come down to Soufrière, come and desensitize the public.
Yes, I think that's something that we can look into. I think it is important that we sensitize persons as much as possible as it
Mhm.
pertains to the effects of our young persons engaged in sexual activity at an early age. There are so many side effects. The person thinks it's just sex and have sex really and freely. That's not the case. Persons could be affected emotionally. Physically, their health can be put in danger. Yes. There's so many things can happen to our children, and we need to be in the know.
Yes, yes. So, okay. We have about 2 to 3 minutes left. Any final words from you, Miss Leo? Any final words to the public or to anybody out there who's suffering?
Okay, I would like to encourage our parents, but not only parents, but teachers, members of the community, anybody in the community. If you are aware that a child is being abused in any form or fashion, a report can be made by you. You don't have to, go to the parents and say, I'm going to make a report. No. You can make a report directly to us or directly to the Division of Human Services. And we take it from there. And we just want persons to know that if they have been abused, they are not alone. There are avenues. We are here to support. Whatever action that you want to take, we are here. We are here to guide you. But of course, any form of abuse against the law, any form of abuse against anybody is against the law. So, we have the different legislations that guides us as well. You have the Domestic Violence Act, you have the Criminal Code that we go by, we have the Child Protection Adoption Act that we go by as well in terms of charging persons who are abusing our children or anybody in any way. So we are here to help, we are here to offer advice, and we are here to refer when necessary.
Yes.
You are not alone.
Yes. So, as Ms. Leon has already said, it's the village has to come back to raising the child. If you see something, it's not good, report it. If you see something that's not, it does not seem right, report it. Allow the investigators to investigate and find or come down to get to the bottom of the matter. Okay. So, on behalf of myself and Inspector Rene, and by extension, the Commissioner of Police, we'd like to thank you, Ms. Leo, for joining us this morning on Police Forum. We would like to have you again. Who knows? I might be invited again as the host of the show again. So this is our time. Thank you, St. Lucia, for joining us. Thank you, Miss Leo. It was wonderful having you. And
Thank you.
yes, have a good day,
Thank you for
everybody.
having me.
Yes.
Thanks.
Soufrière, get ready for an essential discussion on community safety. We are pleased to announce the return of Police Forum on 88.5 Soufrière FM. Join us.